This story is about a rather scary case that Captain Chow had taken on. It was a massacre in a family. Only the lucky 7-year-old child still lived and was sent to a mental institution. The case that year had many strange points, so Captain Chow decided to turn the case over. Chow reached out to an industry friend who had participated in the investigation that year. However, he advised Captain Chow not to investigate the case again. But Captain Chow was adamant because he had a feeling that something was not clear. When Captain Chow arrived at the mental hospital, the colleague reminded Captain Chow that the son of the family was currently very mentally ill. And when coming to see that son, Captain Chow might not be able to investigate anything. The special thing was that the son always said that his father massacred the whole family because he was possessed by a ghost. At that time, the colleague was just starting out to work, but also witnessed the case that day. The whole family was brutally murdered. Captain Chow said that after reading the case report, he felt the son's testimony was very grounded. The colleague felt that Captain Chow must have a problem because he believed in this fictional story. Looking into the room, the son was now much older. He had a thin figure and was standing thoughtfully looking out the window. The teammate and Captain Chow entered the room. The son seemed very shy and panicked about everything. The policeman said hello to him, but he was very cautious. His eyes were sneaky and scared. The face was haggard as if running away from something. He signaled to everyone to keep their voices down because the thing could hear and kill them all. Then the son went under the bed to hide. Perhaps seeing his father kill the whole family made him obsessed. The colleague told Captain Chow that this crazy young man always hid from everyone around and no one could come in close contact. Captain Chow still managed to sit down and reassure his son. Captain Chow used a soft voice and believable actions to build trust with the son. Under the bed, the son lit a lot of candles. "I believe you. Tell me about that day," Captain Chow said. After hearing that someone believed what he said, the son suddenly changed his face and hesitated whether to come out or not. His colleague and Captain Chow together pulled him out. Now he was calmer. Then the son sat crouched on the bed and was able to speak clearly. Captain Chow felt that it was just because he was too scared. The son was psychologically affected because he was young at that time. This time the son opened his heart more and began to remember the past. The colleague also built trust with the son, saying that the captain was very good, could solve all cases, so he told Captain Chow everything. Hearing this, the son suddenly asked for help from Captain Chow. He kept saying that his father was wronged. Captain Chow reassured him and asked him to tell every detail. There would be a way to clear the case. Then the son crouched on the bed and began to tell his story. He was about 7 years old that year. His family lived in a poor village but lived together very happily. That day his father came home early from work, so he bought gifts for the whole family. Dad loved his family very much and never raised his voice at him. That night the whole family of 5 sat together. His father pulled out supplies and food he bought while on a business trip, including candies and candles of all kinds. All were delicious. Candles were also very special, unlike ordinary candles. They also had a very pleasant fragrance. His grandmother loved the scent of his candle, so she showed it to grandfather. His grandfather said that he had heard about scented candles. Only rich people had because the scent was very pleasant. Immediately his grandmother lit the candle. The whole family gathered together very happily. The scent from the candle made the whole house fragrant. After a while, the candle was about to burn out. Suddenly, the father's face began to deteriorate, sweating profusely and looking very tired. At this time, the father asked the family's permission to go inside and rest first.
"Oh, he must have just come back from a long trip, so he's tired. Just let him go,"
the grandfather told the family. While talking happily, the faces of the mother and son became frightened. The father was now acting crazy, holding a big knife, and was attacking the grandfather. Without mercy, the father cut his grandfather's head in half with a knife in front of the whole family. The wife and son were extremely scared to the point of being motionless, not knowing what was wrong with her husband. Everyone was shocked by what had just happened. Then the father seemed to be controlled by something. His eyes were white and he turned to look at the rest of the family with cold eyes. The grandmother could not run away in time because of her advanced age. She could only plead with her mouth. But she was also brutally murdered by him. After seeing that, the wife hugged her son and ran to the door to call for help. But the father saw them. His next target was his wife and son. He held a bloody knife in his hand and began to chase the mother and son out of the door. At the moment, the son looked back and discovered a terrible thing that haunted him to this day. It was behind the father. Another shadowy figure was following. The shadow looked at the mother and son and gave a creepy smile. As soon as she ran to the door, the wife immediately met a neighbor's family who was visiting, thinking that she would be saved. They were surprised to see that the wife, who was holding a child and covered in blood, also hurriedly asked, but the wife was too scared to run away. The wife couldn't stop and explain anything. She just told everyone to run away because her husband was crazy. Before understanding what was happening, the husband ran with a knife and slaughtered the poor neighbor's family. The wife was able to run away to the gate at this time, but because the woman was weak and still carrying a small child, she could not run fast. In the end, the husband caught the wife. He swung his knife and slashed at his wife's back, causing her pain. In an emergency, she was able to throw the child out, and she stayed behind to stop her husband. Before closing the gate herself, she could only scream for her child to run away. The carefree child could only watch his mother being murdered by his father. The last scene has haunted the son to this day. At that time, fortunately, the neighbors heard the noise, pulled over and arrested the husband, so the boy was able to escape death. Even now, sitting down to tell these stories, the son's body was still shaking with fear. The son thought that his father was possessed by a demon. This thing was the reason why his father killed the whole family. After hearing that, Captain Chow comforted him and left. The colleagues still couldn't believe that Captain Chow continued to want to turn this case over just because of the testimony of an abnormal person. The colleague told Captain Chow to relax and rest, why he had to find a job that made him so busy. But Captain Chow directly rejected him and firmly went to investigate this case. After seeing that Captain Chow was so determined, the colleague did not stop him anymore. He actively told the captain the specific address of the house where the murder took place, and still didn't forget to tell the captain to be careful. Captain Chow quickly came to the house that night. The house had been abandoned since the incident. Over the years, the house became dilapidated. Captain Chow opened the gate and shone his flashlight inside. The yard was overgrown with weeds and Captain Chow slowly entered the house. Very quickly he reached the inside of the house. The surrounding walls were rotting and seemed to fall at any moment. He flashed his flashlight around the house for clues. His flashlight suddenly went out, but obviously this was a new flashlight. How could the battery run out so quickly? He tried to tap the flashlight to light it up because it was impossible to see anything without the flashlight. Suddenly, he heard noises from behind, which made him wary. In the end, he had to light a match to catch some of the glimmers of light so he could see the way. He entered each room to look for clues, to the room where the massacre began. He suddenly saw something mentioned in the story that the son had told. It was a candle that was bought by the father when he was on a business trip. Perhaps it was a good candle, so it had been intact for many years. Without thinking much, Captain Chow lit a match on the candle to make it easier to light things up, and thanks to the candle he continued to go around the house to investigate. As he was about to step out, Captain Chow felt someone standing behind him. Quickly turning to look back, the ghosts of the person who was murdered that year gradually appeared before his eyes. At first, the grandfather and the grandmother approached Captain Chow and appeared more and more clearly. Then both the wife and the husband as the killer also appeared and flew towards the captain. In the end, all the dead people appeared. For a moment, Captain Chow was terrified. They approached Captain Chow as if to attack him. Their faces were full of hatred and very scary. Immediately, one after another, the ghosts reached out and rushed towards Chow. Attacked so violently, Captain Chow dropped the candle and it went out. Captain Chow was strangled to the point that he thought he could no longer breathe, when suddenly an accident saved his life. Captain Chow had stepped on a nail. It had pinned his foot through his shoe. It hurt him, but it did wake him up. When he opened his eyes, the evil spirits he saw earlier had all disappeared. This made him begin to doubt the candle. He then quickly left the house to return to headquarters. At the headquarters, Captain Chow brought the candle back for forensic examination, and the result was that the fragrance for this lamp was a herb that could easily cause people to hallucinate. So what he saw at the house yesterday was a hallucination. Forensics also said that if the body was tired or stressed, it was easy to be affected by this candle. Hearing this, Captain Chow understood the problem, so he said goodbye to the medical examiner and left. He went straight to the mental hospital to report the results to the other mentally ill son. After hearing the truth, the son was surprised and couldn't believe his ears. Captain Chow also said that the murder had nothing to do with his father, and that the ghost he saw was also a hallucination, all by this candle. And Captain Chow also advised the son to forget the old story and start over. Everything was clear. Listening to the captain's advice, the son seemed to have returned to normal. As Captain Chow was about to leave, the manager at the hospital called him back. He wanted to thank Captain Chow. Thanks to him, the other son's condition was much better. And according to the manager at the hospital, maybe the son would be discharged soon and return to a normal life.